The prophecies are coming alive, it appears. The people of Turkey are seeking their lost identity. We're truly living the prophecies of the elders, prophecies that have within them the fragrance of the Holy Spirit, and there is no other explanation. For about a week now, the writer says, I've been fighting a new work regarding the geopolitical situation in our region. That is, of course, the region of Greece and Turkey. And my attempt to give a convincing answer to all these incredible things that are happening after the emergence of the throne, quote unquote, of the new planet leader Donald Trump. And I confess that I'm in a state of erasing and sowing with each passing day. And this, honestly, is not in my character. Once I write something, it stays where it is because it's previously been processed mentally and filtered from all sides. However, writing this, the something at this particular stage, I see that developments are overtaking me. Like, for example, what has been happening in Turkey in recent days. Erdogan has accused the young mayor of the city of Istanbul, Constantinople, of being corrupt and doing illegalities, and has imprisoned him, basically getting him off the ballot. But this is not the first time Erdogan is doing this. But the whole world has taken wind of what's happening there, and this is not democracy, obviously. So something in particular, he says, I see developments there overtaking me, like, for example, what's happening in Turkey in recent days regarding the illegal arrest of the mayor of Constantinople, what we call Istanbul today. The mayor is Ekrem İmamoğlu, and his roots are probably Greek. And he's from the area of the Black Sea, the Pontus area. So these are incredibly Greek. Now it seems that the Most High has loosened the bolts of development, as the beloved Dr. Kostas Varvakas usually says. So for now, the theologian, he says, for a week now, I've been in a real short circuit, but what is finally happening in our region? The ends of the world. Everything is turning ahead, or rather everything is returning to its rightful place at a stormy pace. So in this confusion, through my research that this work requires, I came across an article that was republished yesterday by a newspaper, and which in turn was discovered because it's indeed a discovery by the blog Romi, that is Patriots, and it's also very good and faithful concerning Fighter for Christ. Now, he says, I write discovered because the article is not new. It was posted on the website of the newspaper daily a full 20 years ago. To be precise, 19 years ago, and specifically on October 1st, 2006. And I had read it myself from the Sunday issue of Daily, which I purchased from a large kiosk in the center of Sydney, Australia, he said. And in fact, this text, or rather the experiences recorded in this text by the newspaper's travel reporter, Alexandros Masevatis, I had classified among the sources that I used from time to time as evidence both for my historical theories. The present-day Turks are descendants of Greeks, converted to Islam from the time of the Seljuks from the 11th century onwards. For my articles on Turkey and its population, along with other iron documents, quote-unquote, namely the book by Haji Stefanos, Turkey East of the European Union, where the very sympathetic Aris recorded all the experiences he lived while wandering through the Turkish territory regarding the Hellenomania, that is the Greek mania of the Turks, of the Asia Minor coast. That's, of course, the area of western Turkey that borders the Aegean Sea. The Greek mania of the Turks of the Asia Minor coast mainly, but also the certain continental parts of Asia Minor, such as Cappadocia, and for example, the place where Saint Paisius was born and where his mentor, Saint Arsenius of Cappadocia, worked. That was before 1922 exodus of the Greeks towards Greece. So everything mentioned in that text in question is completely true, because it's not only the experiences of some travelers who record a phenomenon, it's also my own experiences, which I lived during my stay in Constantinople for studies. And what Massavetes recorded in his text, Alexander Massavetes did not make any long journey. His tour was limited to Asia Minor coast and Constantinople, today's Istanbul. At the time the text was written, Erdogan's Islamists were already ruling, who had not yet shown their face, their actual goals. This also explains Massavetes' reference to Turkish journalist Mine Karikanat, who even declared herself a fanatical Kemalist and a sworn enemy of the Islamists. And today, for a journalist to declare herself that, a fanatic enemy, openly means immediate surveillance by the MIT of, basically the KGB of Turkey, and sometimes arrested by the police as a terrorist. So what did Massavetes record? First of all, from the style of the text, it seems that it was his first trip to Turkey. I was there much earlier, specifically since the early 1990s, and I know firsthand that everything Massavetes recorded is undoubtedly true. Massavetes is surprised that radio stations were playing Greek songs. The truth is that Haris Alexiou in particular was a big star since the 1990s in Constantinople and on the coast of Asia Minor. The older ones of you who read me are around my age will remember that Alexiou had made concerts in Turkey, 2 concerts, one in Constantinople and one in Izmir, where is Smyrna today, with the then diva of the Turkish pentagram, the explosive Emine Santel. The bad luck had come from the people. In fact, I remember that when Harula Alexiou had sung Dimitrula, the well-known Izmir song, it literally became a free-for-all. The whole Turkish Izmir was singing for it for I don't know how long. In fact, Massavetes had written about the journalist Mine Kirikanat that she told him that I want Greeks for my Izmir without adding anything more. Her phrase still says it all. Now, where Massavetes makes mistakes, that is, he attributes this Greek frenzy as a case that touches on the concept of fashion, that is contemporaneous. That is his mistake. It's not in any case something like that. Both the residents of Constantinople, that's today Istanbul, and its good neighborhoods, Sizli, Tatavla, Beyoğlu, as if we were to say Kifisya, Halandri, Psiko, Kolonaki, and the residents of Asia Minor coastal cities, Izmir, Halikarnassos, Ephesus, Anatolia, are, if not all, the vast majority of them, Greeks who have converted to Islam. The same thing happens with the legendary Pontus area of the Black Sea. Erdogan himself is an example, a Greek from a Greek family who converted to Islam at the end of the 19th century. So what can we say now? But especially those who live on the western coast are the Greek Muslims who were expelled from Crete and the Greek islands, Lesbos, Chios, Samos, and Ikaria, who miss both their origin and their homelands. And because with the Treaty of Lausanne, not only were the Christian Greeks uprooted from their homes in Asia Minor, but also the Greek Muslims who lived in Greece, the horror in all its glory, all its grandeur. And of course, there are crypto-Christians living in Turkey. Massavetes also reveals to us, or rather confirms something else, which I have also stated from time to time in my articles, the double identity of many civil servants, especially in Constantinople, Istanbul. The traveler highlights the testimony of several prominent figures in the Turkish bureaucracy, their nostalgia for the lost Greek element of Constantinople, through a testimony of one of them who keeps his double identity as closely guarded secret. When they say they miss us, they mean the good society, that is, the Greeks who were forced to convert in order not to lose their lives and property, that they cannot bear to live with the Kurds and Turkish villagers who took the place of the Greeks Infanati, Kondos, Skali, and Pera, and who today constitute the majority, explains an executive who works in a public service and who decided, despite his ignorance of Greek, to be baptized Greek Orthodox, Christian Orthodox, that is. I discovered that I have Greek origins, he said, and he keeps his change of religion a secret. I'm afraid of losing my position, he said. This sympathetic fellow, Greek, now with the stamp of faith, simply testified to what many of us suspected for many years, otherwise because we did not have much knowledge about them due to the fact that Greece signed an agreement with Turkey in 1925 to not teach more information about the population exchange in schools for 70 years. Our grandmothers and grandfathers informed us about what happened then in those dark times they lived, and this information was something like a fairy tale for us. And I'm not speaking now personally, since I'm an offspring of refugees from Pergamum and Constantinople. I remember that I had been telling my grandmother I never met my grandfather, and her siblings stories of uprooting and how they lived with the Turks, Greeks who converted to Islam, with what their relationships were, what languages they spoke, etc. Truly invaluable information. And they also told me that these people who call themselves Turks came to church with them and even celebrated with the rest of the Christians both Christmas and Easter, that they honored the holy icons, especially the Virgin Mary. So what Turkish race are we talking about? Mesavetis also touches on the historically distorted part of history in this text, and that is that the history that was taught in schools in Turkey, who are searching for their lost identity, discovered that it was false. The example of the language in which the Greek inscriptions were written was, they say, Old Turkish. Indeed, this is what the historian Sarandos Kargakos mentions in his book, History from the Turks' Side, a history written by Kemal himself in 4 volumes, time periods, with the title History of the Turkish Nation A, B, C, and D, and there, with the help of cooperation of various well-paid Turks and European quote-unquote historians, they created a history that is literally the epitome of lies. Old Turkish, therefore, is for the Turks the pure ancient Greek of the various inscriptions, who even deny that the Ionians of that's Western Turkey were a Greek race, and that today's Greece is Yunanistan, is Ionian and not Greek. And let them say that today's Yunanistan, that is the country of the Ionians, is today's Greece, which once in the Ottoman Empire called the Greek area Rumeli, that is the country of the Romans. Of course, they are also right, because when the first verses of the Seljuk of Arslan arrived in Asia Minor, they did not meet Greeks but Romans, because the Greeks at that time did not call themselves by this name. They called themselves Romans, Romni, R-O-M-O-I. Here are, that's plural. Here are Saini are fighting the terrifying battles to erase the glorious Romania and the name Roman from our history, while the Turks respect us. The prophecies are now coming to life, it appears. Our national saint, Saint Cosmas of northern Greece, gave some information about 250 years ago about the future of Greeks after prophesying the resurrection of Romania through the recovery of Constantinople. He also said something that until yesterday seemed the most improbable of improbable, that Turkey would be completely destroyed and that 1/3 of its population would be baptized as Christians and the other third would be done away with in a World War III. And the other third would flee right deep into the Red Apple area, that is a place where the Kurds have carved out their state between Iraq and Iran. Because we know 1/3 of Turkey is actually Kurdish. Now, the question that several pseudo-rationalists had been asking was, well-known one, okay, let's take Constantinople, but who will carry it around? We are not 10 million in Constantinople today as double the population. Today the question is very easy to answer because all the so-called crypto-Christians will become regular Christians again with a new baptism and return to orthodoxy. So simple that I often wonder how they failed to grasp the whole meaning. Of course, this question also had an extension. How will all this happen at a time when Turkey is on the verge of becoming a regional superpower? This question has existed since St. Paisius, St. Paisius passed away in the early 1990s, had spread through his holy word what St. Cosmas, who lived about 250 years ago, had first prophesied, and when Turkey had already declared in many ways its expansionist policy towards Greece. Today, however, things have turned literally upside down. Turkey may seem like such a superpower, but its legs are so cracked that a small blow would break them and it would collapse like a paper tower. But we will analyze this issue in the next article when, of course, I manage to finish it. For now, I will stick to the fact that one can really easily see today that a large majority of the population of Turkey belongs to basically has Greek roots, that is to say of European origin. In other words, Greeks converted to Islam. Do you want proof? Very happy to give it to you. Did you know that a website which was founded in 2008 undertakes to find through your DNA your origin and your roots? Well, this website called Ancestry, translated as Ancestral Genealogy, with only $129 and sending a sample of your DNA, finds your ancestry up to the 30th generation ago. So this website has opened the eyes of today's Turks, along with, of course, the opening up to the public of archives of the Ottoman Empire, where many Turkish citizens found that they are the offspring of Greeks, even like Erdogan is, the president of Turkey. And here's the proof. It is on your left. Watch the video in which the little Turks form the coast of Asia Minor, Constantinople, the Turkish diaspora, take the DNA test and send it to Ancestry, and the results they receive show them that they are Greeks by 60 or 70% or even more. And this not only does not displease them, but on the contrary, it revitalizes them, I would say. And it's only a small infinitesimal percentage of these young Greeks who were desperately searching to find their true identity, and what pushed them to do it is that inside them, due to the existence of their Greek DNA, it pushed them to do it. That is what today, by presumption, we call as instinct, and something tells me that I am not what they say I am, quote unquote, these types of thoughts. It's the invisible voice that they have heard within themselves for so many years, and that every person hears who believes that their origin is not what they are told. And this happens mainly to those who are adopted by other families, whose parents had abandoned them, or those with whom they live are not their real parents, for example. So this invisible voice is what calls them to go to Ancestry and find out their true roots. And believe me, their results do not surprise them. It's simply the confirmation that makes them happy, the confirmation of their instinct, which is justified. So when we reach the end, which is a matter of months, it appears the Greek-Turkish conflict, then you'll truly see God's incredible plan unfolding before our astonished eyes. And this will be a type of a resurrection. Because God willed it. And in fact, everything we have experienced so far and what we will experience in the future is the absolute plan of God, God's salvation plan. We cannot decipher it. We are not capable. We do not have the grace of God. We have been trying unsuccessfully to decode all these years the great prophecies of our saints with our poor mind that, of course, fell out every time. So it was God's will that all these terrifying events that were experienced for 600 years happened, because the Greeks were slaves to the Turks for 600 years, to the Ottoman Empire. And most Westerners don't know that. So we understand why those who have not yet understood it will learn it in my next article, he says. So, the conclusion, on the note of mine, Turkey does not exist. There is only those who were what we call Rami, who do you understand? And this is one last discovery while watching the series Saint Paisios. There was a scene, and I don't remember exactly, fifth or sixth episode of the second cycle, where the saint's father and mother discussed, under the stress of what will become of the saint's sister, Christina, and the father, above all else, is also overcome with sadness for the uprooting they suffered, in addition to the others they faced in Greece. So he wondered if they would ever see their lost lands again. And the mother is nestled in her husband's arms, listening to his anxiety and distress. At some point when the father wonders, will we ever see them again, the mother, with obvious difficulty, tells him what she has been keeping a secret sealed inside her. She tells him, don't worry, my husband, we won't see them, nor will our children, nor will our grandchildren. Our great-grandchildren will see them. And the father jumps up as if he's been electrocuted. Our great-grandchildren, how do you know? His mother smiles through her teary eyes and tells him, Haji Effendis told me, my husband, when I went to see him in the hospital, he told me that we would get our lands back in 100 years. The Haji Effendis is none other than Saint Arsenius of Cappadocia, who revealed his shocking fate to the wife of Prodromos, the father of Saint Paisios. And a lot of prophecies that Saint Arsenius of Cappadocia said did come exactly to the date. So if we calculate this, it was said shortly before his passing, November 2024. The 100 years have already been completed with the passage of 2024. So we are a half a step before something that will be happening. Half a step before the something come a change of genealogy, because the word of the saint is never false. And this is a picture of the Church of Holy Wisdom, which was built in Constantinople, a very magnificent, the biggest building at that time, around the 5th or 6th century AD. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.